Awesome. Okay, so guys, we are now officially recording as well. So, yep, as we all know, keep it clean and we'll take it from there. So, welcome. And so, we're going to be going through this is your weekly sessions. Participative, please, as we go through. So, just type in or unmute yourself and then we can ask a question. So, just to recap, why did I choose To Kill a Mockingbird? Well, we all know that it stems off from the book To Kill a Mockingbird, okay? And there's various different lessons that you learn from in that. So we're going to be going through personal growth, leadership development, self-awareness, boundaries, my favorite, behavior modification, health. Okay, so those are the different areas that we're going to be looking at. And we all, over the last few weeks, we have covered the wheel of growth. And we've gone through how the wheel of growth is very pertinent to us when we actually go through that whole crunch. And where is my circle going? Do I feel the pain? And can I actually see myself going through the whole process? So that's, we need to understand that our pain is our compass. But what we need to initially, until we actually get to a nice place of healing, when we get to a place of healing, our pain is no longer our compass. We need to make sure that our self-worth is our compass. Now, certain triggers will take you backwards to the pain being your compass, and in certain areas in your life, your self-worth would be your compass. So it's not until you're all holistic. It depends on circumstances, what the trigger is, what the pain is. So that was the first session that we covered and what we went through. The other one that we looked at the week after that was in actual fact the Johari's window. Now, if you haven't had time to go back and have a look at it with the Johari's window, remember it's what is all about being open, and that open square is to grow bigger and bigger and bigger as you become self-conscious. Because what happens is, sorry, not self-conscious, but personal growth, and you actually grow within yourself. The more you hide from others, what happens is that you find that you are not growing. Okay, so that whole personal growth, that whole self-help, the more you are open and constant, whether you're with others or whether you're not with others, that's how you actually go through this. So we want things for that, there's no more skeletons in your closets, as it were. Okay, so tonight's session, I actually thoroughly enjoy this one. And tonight's session, we're going to look at the wheel of life. When we look at the wheel of life, we need to understand that we've been given time. And when we look at time, what happens is people say, look here, I'm going to manage my time. Well, I've got news for you. Neither you nor I can in actual fact manage our time. Then you hear people saying, I'm so busy, sorry, I can't do that, but I'll find time. I need to share with you as well, there's no ways that you can find time. All you and I can do is manage ourselves within the time frame that we've been given. God gave us time. The sun came up, the sun sets. That's our time frame. Man put hours, minutes, seconds, and all that into it. But the bottom line is that when we look at the balancing our life, it's all about how do I manage myself within a time frame. And when we start looking at our wheel of life, we start saying to ourselves how imbalanced we actually are. So when we look at, I always love the saying that in God's word, he says, look at my creation and then you will learn from it. Well, if we look at the solar system, God has balanced the solar system really nicely so that we don't get burnt by the sun. You know, when you go and sit in the sun, and with what man's doing to the planet at the moment, we can understand that we're messing it up. But God designed the solar system to be balanced so that we could live on our planet's Earth and we wouldn't get damaged and burnt up. So that's a balanced system. If you look at how the ecosystem has been designed by God, the ecosystem is perfectly balanced. What happens is man comes into the ecosystem, man messes up the ecosystem. And then I can share a story of this one island where it had a lot of flies on it, and man decided to get rid of the flies. The moment they got rid of the flies and eradicated them off the island, everybody on the island started getting sick and they actually died. So we need the ecosystem. What happens is man messes it up as well. So the same thing as God has created you and I balanced. The human anatomy is a balanced anatomy. We mess it up. We mess it up from too much drinking, too much smoking, whatever it might be, that we actually end up messing up our own ecosystem within our bodies. And so 4 things happen to you and I when our lives are imbalanced. Okay, so when you look at your life as a leader, now remember, when you look at leading your life, which is managing your life, you're in charge of your life. So the first thing is frustration. When your life is imbalanced, frustration sets in. And frustration is really a very common emotional response to an imbalanced life, when things don't go your way or those kind of things. Anger also leads to is this, what will happen is, if you do not get the frustration under control, the frustration would lead to anger. So when a person is angry, their anger only comes from 3 things: either fear, frustration, or hurt. So if we understand that when somebody is angry, we can help process and go back to the wheel of growth, and we can say, hold on a second, where is this coming from? Are they scared? Are they fearful of being, or have they been physically hurt, or are they frustrated? And that's where the anger will actually come from. The other thing that happens if your life is imbalanced is fatigue, the lack of energy, the lack of motivation, because you don't know what to do. You're spending so much time. And I have a tendency to do this as well, is that I'll sit and sometimes stare at my computer for maybe 30 minutes and then wonder, what did I actually do? And it's just because my fatigue is setting in and that I don't actually know what to do, which then gives you that foggy brain. And what we need to understand is that fatigue is also a symptom and it's not a disease. So it's saying to you that there's something wrong. So we need to understand that. And please, guys, at this particular time in life with COVID, and those that have had COVID, they will start suffering from the fatigue, the lack of energy and motivation as well. Then, so those are 2 of them. The other 2 that we can look at, things that will happen when your life is imbalanced, one of them is stress. That's the normal physical response. What happens when you're in a stress zone? It'll be fight, flight, or freeze. So that happens to me. So the stress linked with the fatigue comes in together, and I just freeze and just stare at my computer screen. So when we are working correctly and everything is in order and balanced, what happens is we are able to stay focused, energetic, and alert. But if not, the opposite happens, and too much stress can damage our health, our productivity, and also our relationships. So we need to understand that there's these 4 things that actually can stem in if your life is imbalanced. One of them is the frustration, fatigue, stress. And the saddest thing that people overlook when a life is imbalanced is actually the life of regrets. That's the feeling of shame, sadness, guilty, depression, embarrassment, because you can't and you don't know how to actually balance your life. And so when we look at balancing our lives, we sometimes forget that there's a lot of things that have caused our lives to be imbalanced. And when we go back and we look at the wheel of growth, and we look at the Johari's window, and we look at now I'm going to be showing you your wheel of life and how we can actually analyze it. And we go and look at the list that we made of all the different people we interact with, and what is our responsibility to that relationship? What are we responsible for within that relationship? What is it that we would like out of the relationship? When we do that, regrets can start coming in as well, that I could have done that with this child and I didn't do this with that child, and those kind of things. So when we look at this, we've got to go back and say, when I'm dealing with toxic people, are they causing me these 4 things to imbalance my life as well? Okay, so those are the 4 things that happens if we do have an imbalanced life. But let's now look at areas that can help us keep our lives balanced. So where we can keep our lives balanced, a lot of us know all of this, and this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And when we look at these areas, we so often don't take all of them into account. And so the very first area, which is your foundation, that's your physiological area, your physical side of life, that's your breathing, food, water, sex, sleeping, all those kind of things. Now, most of us actually don't realize that we assume that we breathe properly, but most people actually do not breathe correctly. And I only realized this recently when I actually started doing Pilates with a Pilates instructor. And my friend and I were like having absolute blast. And I made a joke, and we were watching a clip with Lionel Richie. And not Lionel Richie, I'll tell you his name now. Maybe someone can type it in. I'll think of his name now. I'll think of his name. But anyway, and he does the voice, and Tom Jones, and he was singing so beautifully. And as Tom Jones was singing, I realized how old he was and how his breath was still perfect. And I know I made a joke about, he can even sing and breathe. But the point of the matter was that he's learned the art of breathing. If we learn the art of breathing, and this is something that terrifies me with the masks that we're all wearing, a lot of people wear them the whole day while they're working. And that is that, we're designed to go back to balancing the system. We're all designed to breathe in oxygen and out carbon dioxide. And the trees that are on our planet, they breathe in carbon dioxide and they breathe out oxygen. And this is why we have the symbiotic relationship that we actually survive. So what happens now, we're all wearing masks for most of the day, and we're not sending out any carbon dioxide, we're breathing it in ourselves. We're going to end up getting sick, and the planet is also going to get sick. So breathing is something that we really need to look at all around us. Then the second one is safety. Now, safety, very simply, a lot of us look at it from a financial perspective as well. All right. And that would be your security. You're making sure you've got resources, employment, health, property, all those things that make us feel secure and safe. Now, each person's level of security is going to be different. Women might want financial security, whereas men might want property security or a health security. Some women, like, for example, I'm a perfect example. I love animals. I love being out on a farm. But in today's society, there's just no ways I will go and live on a farm because I desire property security. And I suppose it could be to the fact that we've been hijacked, my husband's been shot, those kind of things. But you see how it plays a very big role for me from that perspective. Then another thing that we need to look at from balancing area in our life would in actual fact be social. As the very first session, we started off talking about love and how important it is for everybody to belong. And so again, and this is why we did the list of everybody that we know, your friendships, your family, your sexual intimacy, how is that in your life? Is it imbalanced, or have you got it balanced? And so that's something to go and have a look at. And you can see that the foundation is food, water, and for men, sex, all right, sleep for women. But then we grow as we go from there. Okay. So we actually grow as we're going through these stages. Then another one that we need to keep balanced, and this is where all of this has started from, and that's our emotional side, our esteem, our self-esteem, our confidence, our achievements, respect for each other, respect for ourselves, and to be respected by others. And if we are not conscious of what this means to us and who do we want what from other people, if we aren't diarizing or documenting it from the journal, and go and have a look at the section that I did on journaling, I think it was about 12 minutes worth of how you can do projection journaling and reflection journaling, and how important it is. Because if we don't jot this down, how do I know what I want from individuals? Because what happens is we then go into relationships, or we go into friendships, and we are in a social environment, and we expect something from people or a need to be met, but we're actually looking for that need to be met within the wrong crowd. So we need to be aware of, in what circumstances is it healthy for us to receive certain things. Now, we can have a look at this from the perspective of we hear the stories, I don't know them personally, where a boss ends up having an affair with his secretary. And the reason being is because him and his wife haven't worked through this respect by others and respected by others. So he's desiring his wife to respect him. The secretary is playing the role of respecting him because she gets paid to do it. He falls in love with that. But if he documented it, he would be able to communicate to his wife and find out what it is that they're actually looking for. And then we've got the last one, most important, the tip of the pinnacle, and that is in actual fact our self-actualization, our spiritual side. I'm not going to project or force my belief system onto whoever's listening to this. All I am going to say is that you need to understand I work with God's word, so that's my basis, my foundation, and I don't know what yours is, but what you're going to have a look at is and say, where am I reading or getting my morality from? Where do I get my creativity from, my spontaneity from? And did you know that problem solving actually comes from self-actualization, from that spiritual side? It's called wisdom. And we cannot live without wisdom. And if you're not understanding, how do I solve this problem, what's going to happen is you're going to then go back to the 4 areas that are going to keep you imbalanced, and that's where you're going to get the fatigue again, you're going to get stressed and those kind of things, because your problems will then overwhelm you. And if you go back to the wheel of growth, you will then be able to see where it is and what triggers you from there. Okay. And then, of course, the hardest of all of them is actually the acceptance of facts. Most of us don't like the facts because we want the facts to suit what we are from our perspective. Now, we must understand that your perspective and my perspective may be completely different on a topic. But what we need to realize is that our perspectives, in actual fact, become our reality. So if we don't go looking for the facts and the truth of what it is that we believe in, then what's going to happen is we start going back into those zones where we are battling with, we will end up with regrets, we'll end up with that stress zone, and we will end up with fatigue. And then, of course, that frustration that sets in, and that's what's going to keep us imbalanced. So something cute here for you. I just want to know, in our lives, how busy are we? And I think that's what happens to most of us. We all get onto the rat race of life. We jump onto that wheel, we run on that wheel, and we just spin and we just keep going. And then all of a sudden we stop because we're frustrated, we're fatigued, we are stressed, or whatever it is. And the moment you and I stop, what happens is the wheel of life throws you off. And I know it's a cute little clip, but there's a lot of meaning in this little clip. And this poor little mouse, all he's going to do is, if he didn't stop, he would actually still be running. The problem with you and I not knowing how to stop the wheel of life because we haven't processed it is that the only way we can get off it is literally stop and then get thrown off. Whereas instead of being in a scenario like, for example, a bus, it has a stop station. We know how much sleep we have. We know what we've got to do. And how do we balance our lives by keeping it in a structured perspective? So let's just go. All right. So here's what your wheel of life will look like. Now, I've just chosen some of these entities, and I hope you've got your questions that we can all chat about just now and what your perspective is. And I'd like to know what you got out of the session and how it's what your aha moment. But when we look at your wheel of life, now you can choose, design yourself a wheel. You can choose any of these headings. What I've chosen here, I've looked at my business and my career, finances, health, family and friends, romance, personal growth, fun and recreation, physical environment. You could have added spiritual here as well. Physical environment for me was from a spiritual perspective, where do I get my source of my energy from? So you could have had, instead of saying romance, you could have put your husband's name, you could have put wife, you can choose whatever it is that you want in your wheel of life. And what you've got to say is the center of the wheel is 0. And right to the out, you'll see we go in halfway is 5 and then 10. So if you had to go and spend some time and rate each of these areas on your personal, I'm so satisfied with this right now, you're going to be a 10. If I'm not satisfied with this now, it's going to be on a scale lower than that. So this is what you would do. For example, I'm going to show you a black dot. There you'll see under business and career, I've put a black dot, and that black dot is on a 5. So am I happy right now, content right now with my business and my career, is the question I'm going to ask myself. And I'm going to say, no, I'm not happy with where I'm sitting at now, which would lead me to the next one and say, okay, with my financial situation, am I happy? And you can see my financial situation. I'm kind of like, I'm not 100%. I'm not there yet. I believe I've got a long way to go. And so it's a little bit better than my career, probably because I've got outside investments, if I've got a full-time job or whatever it might be. So you would plot it there. Then let's look at health. Okay, and I'd say, all right, fine. I'm happy with health. Health is a little bit higher up on the scale. So it's about an 8. If I go and have a look at my relationship with my family and friends, those that are close to me, I've done my analysis, I've had a look at everything, and I said, you know what, I'm not on top of the grades yet, but you know what, I'm pretty content with the family and friends I'm hanging around with right now. Then I can go to romance and say, okay, from my romantic side with regards to my husband, my partner, my friend, whoever it might be, am I very happy? Okay, and I'm like, not top of the pops yet, but we're at least above a 5. We're definitely not down there by the 0. Okay, now let's have a look at personal growth. Again, okay, we're pretty above average and on a journey, because we're all on a journey, but I haven't arrived yet. Okay, so there's no way I'm going to make a 10 and say, chop, I've arrived. And then we can have a look at fun and recreation. Yes, happy, fun, all is good. And I'm really happy with that. And then, of course, physical environment. And that would be, where am I right now? Am I happy? Am I happy with my home, with my offices, where I work, whatever it might be. So let's just say I'm average with that. All right, whatever I determined physical environment is for. Then what you need to do is need to understand that if a car has a flat wheel, you will damage its rim if you continue to drive with it. So if we mapped this out, I definitely do not have a balanced life. So let's just say hypothetically, I'm talking about this as mine. It's just a draft graph that we've done. So if you have a look at this, you need to sit back and say, hold on a second. It looks like all the fun side of life is high, but it looks like all the stress side of life is low. If you look at that, health is high, friends is high, romance is high, personal growth is kind of like getting there, fun and recreation. Is that telling me I'm spending too much of my time not looking after my additional finances, too much time trying to have all the fun of life and not looking after my business and my career? So when you look at your wheel of life, you've got to ask yourself the question, why does it look like it does? Now, it could have been completely the opposite. I could have had 9 for career. I could have had 10 for finances. I'm so happy where they are right now. I could have a 9 for health, but I could have a 5 for family and friends. I could have a 5 for relationships. I could have a 5 or even a 2 or 3 for personal growth because I don't consider it. And then fun and recreation could have also been a 3 because I don't do anything. Personal environment, because I've had the money and the career and all that, maybe I've got a beautiful home and I'm happy, and that was high. Could you see then this wheel would be upside down? And then again, I've got to ask myself the questions, oh my gosh, I've spent so much time on my career and my finances and all those kind of things, and obviously looking after my health because I can afford to do it, but who's sacrificing? My relationships are sacrificing. My friends I don't have family and friends, those kind of things. And that's what one should be doing when you plot the wheel of life and you take that into consideration. Then within that, you now can go and apply the Johari's window, and you can go and apply the wheel of growth within each of those areas. So that's a lot for you guys for this evening. So we're going to stop share, and then I'd love you to share your perspectives, what you got out of it, and what is your aha, and what value would you like to add. So who would like to go? Normally Vilma, if she's awake yet. George, how's it?
All right, and you, man. Okay, I just when you look at this, and I want to go back, and I know Lothar on my Zoom calls that we had, he said it a lot, and what I just realized here again is at some stage you've got to stop, review, and then decide, because we've been through a lot with what's happening in the last few months. With a lot of stuff, finance, everything they had on the wheel there, a lot of that stuff happened to a lot of us, and I think this just showed me again to just decide, just stop, review, and decide on the way forward. I think this is what it showed me. So yeah, that's my 2 cents I want to put in there.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, and one of the very first sessions, he also shared that again with us, and it is so true. And you will going to have a pup wheel in your life if you don't to spend the time processing and going through all of that. Yes, Vilma.
Yeah, yeah, I love all Maslow's pyramids. We just mess it up all the time, and yeah, I must say we've just been on a team building weekend this weekend, and from Thursday to Monday to Mpumalanga, and the setting was stunning, but what you find with a team of 11 people, very diverse people, you learn a lot. And I find you learn much more from the negatives than what you learn from the positives. And people show they cannot for 5 days in 2 cabanas. We're in Hazy View. Keep up a mask in such close proximity. So you get to know the positives as well as the negatives. And then to keep that boat, Anthony's boat, afloat and guiding and you not lose it. You've got to apply those needs sort of, and I'm telling you, a lot of it was spiritual because any other way I wouldn't have been able to cope. So you immediately go to that highest level where it's almost like a safe zone. Well, for me it is.
Absolutely.
And then, you then sail in between this lot and see that things do work out the way they should work out.
Awesome. And yes, I was following you on Facebook. It really looked like you guys had a lot of fun. And you're so right. So what happens when we go into these team buildings or these environments that we have, again, we don't process what's our outcome. And for ourselves individually, very few of us actually do. We just get in the car, we go, because we're on that wheel and we're just running. And then suddenly I have a disagreement with someone, stop, fall off the wheel, then everything. Now we've got to sort things out. We 2 of us are disagreeing, we're arguing or whatever it might be. And we don't understand how to get back onto that wheel. And a lot of people just end up spoiling the rest of their weekend because they don't know how to get back on the wheel. And it's because they came into that environment actually not knowing what they want to get out of it. And it's like, oh, I better go because it's the boss's team building or whatever it might be. And they go where, and I often say this, and that motive matters most. The reason why we do something is so much more important than actually doing it. Motive matters most. And our attitude comes out when we actually and you can see it in groups like that. Now you're taken out of your comfort zones and you've been asked to do something you don't want to do. So even the lady that was going down that slide, that she was holding that guy's hand.
That was my Stevie, yeah.
Was that Stevie?
His girlfriend. Also, they're both, and she's slightly more challenged than what he is. And she was petrified.
Oh, precious.
But she did it.
And he held her hand. She did it.
I was so proud of him.
It was so, it really was precious, and that's the kind of environment that we need to be putting ourselves into, is it in that caring space, that love space, and it can only be spiritual. You're quite right. Our disagreements are spiritual. Everything that we do actually has got a spiritual thing to it. So Johan says that makes sense. So awesome, Johan, thanks for joining us, and I'll send you the recording so you can get the first half of it as well. I did record it, guys.
Does it mean we also getting it?
Okay. The reason why I'm going to give it to you is because of the window, the Wheel of Life. I want you to go and have a look at that again. I'll send that to you because it's important for us when we are doing our reflection journaling, and well, first of all, our projection journaling, and then our reflection journaling, how important it is for us to have both. And most people only do reflection journaling. Very few people, or sorry, either or. They don't do them both simultaneously, and it is important to do both. So Anthony says, great information, poised to lead to transformation. We just need to, the thing jumped again. We just need to be honest. I agree, blatantly honest. Okay. Question is, now that you have identified on the Wheel of Life where you hit the pothole, definitely, will you devise an action plan? And that's exactly the point, is that, obviously clearly he must have been listening to an SMS, but when I said where the pothole is, that's why you now need to go and get your Wheel of Growth out, and you've got to say to yourself, in that Wheel of Growth. So let's go back to that, the Wheel of Growth, and I'm just going to share screen. Yes, can I? Yes, I can. Quickly go back, share screen. I should have actually done this the other way first, but never mind. I am taking you all the way back. There we go. So if we look at the Wheel of Growth, are you seeing the Wheel of Growth, guys? Okay, cool. So if you awesome, thanks. So if you now have a look at the Wheel of Growth, remember I'm just going to go back so I can just get the animations in again. Okay, so with the Wheel of Growth, what most people have a tendency is, there's obviously reasons. So I've called it the pain, the crunch, and issue of why you've hit the pothole. Okay, so the hitting the pothole area, there's a reason why we're not growing in that particular area. So remember, while we're staying in that zone where we're not moving up, and we're not in our Wheel of Life going up towards a 10, because in God's economy, he says that we grow from glory to glory, which means that every single day I should be becoming better and better as a human being. We're using our pain to be our compass. And if we keep the pain to be our compass, what happens is we end up going, if you have a look there, after I feel the pain is my compass, you'll see the first red sign is denial. What happens is you go into denial, and what happens is your Wheel of Growth, or your personal growth, only stays in that little circle. So it will always be crunch, feel the pain, deny, crunch, feel, and you don't go down to the next phase, which is owning that feeling. And then most people don't like to own the feeling. They don't like that pain, so they'll escape it. They'll make excuses, whatever it is, and then they just don't worry. But then your circle only stays there. And our job is to get ourselves right the way from, okay, so I felt the pain financially. This is my story. I'm not going to put my head in the sand and deny that this has happened. And I can't escape it. I can't blame others. And I know what happens is, until, let's just say, for example, I keep blaming so-and-so and X and whoever for stealing my money. I'm just going to keep going. The next time I do something, I'm going to go into a project. It's also going to crash and burn. I'm going to feel the pain. I go back down and I blame others. And that's going to be my financial circle, until I come and say, okay, I need to acknowledge my responsibility for this. What is my responsibility? I can't rationalize myself out of it. I need to see myself in a new light. I need to say, okay, these are the new mindset changes that I've learned in whatever it might be. And then this is where a lot of people, that when they go to, as I've said it before, where they go into rehab, people take the rehab will take them all the way to, okay, I see myself in a new light. That's fantastic. I've given up drinking. I've given up drugs. I've given up smoking, whatever it might be. But then we have a tendency and to cling to what you're afraid of losing. So now I'm afraid. So I leave the rehab, or I leave and I'm like, oh, cool. Let's say, for example, an alcoholic, I'm fine. And then I go to a party. And then I see everybody else is drinking. I think, oh, you know what? Gee, I used to also party and I used to be so much fun. I cling to what I'm afraid to lose. And then that's when I have the crunch. So my wheel of growth never happens. And I never get around to feeling free about who I love. And then therefore I can't feel that acceptance within my inner being. And if we can learn to make decisions no longer from when we feel the pain, we mustn't make them from the pain being my compass. We need to make it from our self-worth. So we've got to go through, I feel the pain, but I need to do it from, oh, I don't need that anymore. Whatever it might be, and then make our decisions from there. Because what happens is sometimes if I then start the journey and I say, okay, I feel accepted in my innermost being, I've achieved this, I'm an overcome alcoholic or whatever it might be, the chances of me moving to denial are not likely to happen. I'm likely to feel the crunch, but I will go to that space. I'm likely to start denying it. No, I've overcome this, I've grown this. But because I'm feeling better, I'll be able to go and say, no, I'm owning that feeling. I'm going to let it come. I'm going to be vulnerable. I acknowledge my responsibilities. I see myself in a new light. I offload the baggage, and I'm no longer threatened by the situation, and I feel loved. And so that's where and that's why this wheel of growth is so powerful and so important for us to actually stick to and work from that perspective. Great. Let's see. Wow. Great, Sonia. Thank you. Let's see. It really does make a lot of sense. Whenever you lack something, one needs to stop, think, and find a different approach on how to overcome a better situation, not just give up and accept, but stand back and evaluate and find solutions. Absolutely. And Sonia, solutions don't come naturally. That I need to tell you, solutions don't come naturally because we got ourselves into that situation. So what is the solution? And that's where we need to go. And Pumalanga is great for potholes, teaches you great maneuver. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you got to find your solutions. And sometimes your solution needs to be talking to someone. Sometimes your solution, it could be just on a call like this one this evening, listening to George, listening to Wilma, Anthony, Johan, and that kind of thing, and just sharing. And this is why it's so important for us to share our experiences and what we've been going through so that we can learn from one another. Cool. Anybody else want to add anything?
I'd like to just ask a question.
Okay, let's go.
Go for it, Anthony.
Go for it, Doc.
Okay. When you looked at the wheel of life and you saw where the pothole was, what if that area really hit a pothole and it wasn't really fully in your control? How would you advise we tackle that if you know it just was circumstances beyond your personal control, but yet you hit the pothole? How would you advise we take hold of that?
Excellent question, because that's actually where a lot of people end up finding that the outside circumstances influence. So again, when the pain comes, so whatever it might be, all right, it's outside circumstances. How I react or respond to that is the key on whether it's a trigger to me or not. So if I overreact, and I get angry or whatever it is, then if I go back and I say to myself, let's use anger. So now something has happened, it's out of my control, and I get absolutely beside myself with anger. Okay, and this just happened to me just this weekend. I was beside myself with anger. And I had to process. Now, everybody's going to process whatever it is that they're going to experience differently. Some can get over it in 1 hour, some in 2 hours, some can get over it in 3 days. And we need to respect that space and that time. And so in doing that, it was going back to say, if anger only comes from one of three things, fear, frustration, or hurt, which one of them is it? Then instead of me going into that denial and saying, oh, well, I'm over this, I don't care, I didn't have anything to do it, that's total denial. I need to say, hold on a second, I need to go back to the very first step, which is I need to own the feelings attached to that. So am I going to react or respond? If I'm responding, I'm coming from a place of I feel accepted within my inner being. If I'm reacting, I'm coming from the space that I haven't accepted in this particular instance who I am and what I feel from my innermost being. So, because I'm now overreacting. And I need to take myself on that journey. And that's where you go back to saying, okay, I am angry. I am livid. What happened? Whose fault was it? Why do I feel that way? Fear, frustration, or hurt. Okay. And the fear for me, it was more fear, and the fear of losing. And I'm not going to say to you what it was, but it was the fear of losing something, the fear of not being able to get my head above the water. I felt like I was sinking. And that fear just erupted. Okay. But then I had to go and ask myself, how long has that fear been with me? And it was actually with me for a long time. Okay. It was circumstances after circumstances after circumstances. And that was just, that crunch was just the camel on the straw's back. So unless we process it, we can't get ourselves through to saying, you know what? It's no longer the outside circumstances influenced it, but I still have a responsibility for myself within that. I hope that answers you, Doc.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great answer.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that answer as well. Is you got to own it, huh? If you don't own it, you can't do anything with it.
100%. If you don't own it,
you basically give it to someone else to solve, and you are the owner of you.
100%.
So you need to. You know what my issue is, and it's a very funny one. It's trust, and it's not trusting. It's trusting.
Okay. Wow.
And that's a funny one to have.
It is.
Because no matter how you get hurt, you cannot, well, I can't stop myself from trusting. And with the next situation or person, I will give trust until I have reason not to trust. and that reason not to trust normally comes when the hurts of course get done.
Absolutely.
And it's a weird one to have, and somehow I just can't stop it. I need to stop, or I need to be more selective in who I trust.
Exactly.
You see, but the thing is, your mind knows, but your being doesn't seem to be in that same spot.
Yeah. And you'll probably find that trust. So if I were you, I would go and write down what trust is, and don't look at trust from your perspective. Go and have a look at the word trust from the dictionary. What does trust say? Because you need to identify, is it trust that's a core value for you, or are they violating something else? So, so just go and have a look at the word trust, because it's the same as the word respect. We use the word respect totally out of context. Okay, you must respect me. But if you go and have a look at the word respect, and you actually look at its definition, it actually says there that if you have respect, it's because you've earned something or done something great for people to respect you.
Yeah.
We use it in an everyday thing. So we go and we teach children, for example, we say to children, you should respect your elders.
Your elders. Yeah.
Okay, we do. All right. But what happens if the elder is an alcoholic, verbally abuses, mentally abuses, physically abuses you, but we're still telling you respect your elders? No, respect says you should have done. So what has that parent done or that uncle done to deserve the respect? Okay. And so therefore we should be teaching children to honor, not respect, because it's a completely different word. And so we're teaching people the wrong meaning of the word. And so always go back and have a look at the perspective. So Anthony and I had a big fun when we did our values. One of my core values is loyalty. One of his core values is, in actual fact, integrity. Now, integrity and loyalty are two completely different things. And unless you understand the meaning of those two and the depth of them, you'll then know what resonates. And then you'll be able to know, okay, so this is what the word is. Let's say it is trust. then go back to your list of all the people. And when you write down where was trust broken in every single relationship, and what is the core? You're going to find a thread. There's a thread. And then once you understand the thread of whatever it might be, so the one of the things is very simple. You trust people to a certain extent. So what is that for you? And when they break it, you need to say, oh, hold on a second, I haven't helped that person know to what level, what trust means to me. And if they break the trust, what you see, we don't have these conversations. So yeah, we don't. And for me, loyalty is so like, I have loyalty conversations with people that are, I have loyalty conversations with people that are close to me, because my interpretation of loyalty, their interpretation of loyalty are so different that for them to say something or be disloyal is neither here nor there. So it's the same. Anthony can slit his wrists if somebody is disintegrous towards him. To me, if you lack your integrity, I'm over you, I'm next, gone. I couldn't be bothered. Do I believe integrity is important? Absolutely. But if you don't have integrity towards me, I'm over it. But break loyalty, it's a different thing. I slit my wrist. So values are so important to us with the depth of that. Awesome. Thanks, Wilma. I see Anne's typed a long letter here. Let's have a look. See, guys, let's pull all the stops and get more people to attend. We could have a catalyst to serve and ignite someone else's life. This is very valuable. I'm going to embrace others to join the second. Awesome. Thank you. Cool, man. Yeah, it would be nice to have more people. So guys, we've got 10 minutes to go. Then we're going to stop off on the hour. I love the interaction. So please, does anybody else want to type in anything, say anything? This has been very valuable for all of us, including myself. All good? Great. Super. 2, peace. George's thumbs up. 100% Wilma. Awesome. Agree with the 2 E's. Yep. Awesome, Johan. Tessa, are you all good out there? I know I'm sure you must have finished your dinner by now. George has got a thumbs up. So there we go, guys.
She says she's all good. She's fine.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, George. All right, guys, then we'll wrap up the session. I'll give you guys the recording only because, Johan, you missed the beginning. And I have recorded it, but I'm not going to splash it out everywhere. It's only going to go to the 6 of you plus Tessa, 7 of us, and only we will get it. And please share the information with people, because it is important for us to actually realize that we are on this journey, and we need to keep it going. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Johan.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Cheers,
guys.
guys. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Emil.
Thanks.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.